Hey, y'all. You're listening to Spiritual Freedom Podcast, and I'm your host, Susie. I'm glad you made it. So this is a safe space where we get to talk about anything and everything spiritual and metaphysical, but we're going to talk about it without the judgment, without the fear or religious guilt, and without losing any credibility. So let's open our hearts and our minds, and let's talk about the weird without being weird about it.
Hey, y'all. So I was going to get into a longer discussion about how I don't check into the dogma by like the Christian faith that I was kind of raised in. There's two parts to it. I don't believe in any sort of savior needed for me to go be with God when I pass away from the meat suit. And when the meat suit is done and my soul needs to return, I go straight up to God. It's like an auto function. The soul knows how to get home. Like it automatically knows how to return home. That's my personal belief. And then the second part is that I'm inherently sinful or I'm out of alignment. I think there's two things there. I mean, you gotta be really clear because disalignment, gosh, I'm trying to remember my correct grammar here. Not being in alignment with your inner divine self, that is real. That can happen. I can do that and get triggered by bullshit family dynamics, which I have recently. Power struggles, power dynamic bullshit that I need to kind of not get triggered by anymore. But and I'm working on, and that unalignment is definitely there. Okay, that happens. But the fact that any idea that I'm inherently sinful, I think you have a propensity as a human, because this is the hard plane to get through. Like we've got emotional and physical. I mean, we got money, we got emotions, we got all these things coming at us, right? These heavy issues that can really freak us out. And you get one bill that you can't afford one month, that will freak you out. So I guess my point of this is that I don't want to believe in any system that puts me at some sort of messed up state. That's my resting point. That's my auto rest kind of energy. It's like, no, that's not. My soul is who I am, who I try to really identify with. And then I realize I have a meat suit, that has its own personality and its own mental and emotional mix and all that sort of thing, and own physicality, but that those filters are where I live my earth, journey from, or through, I should say. But it's always about reconnecting to this inner divine self that's inherently there in each one of us. It's just some people aren't as connected with it. They're not driving with their headlights on. It's like driving it without, and you're like, God, that person does not have their headlights on. They're going to crash. Yeah, you're going to crash a lot more when you don't have headlights on at night and you're trying to drive around. But I think people who know to seek that alignment, okay, the lights are on. And, sometimes we go off the road, but that's like with any of us, because we're here in this journey, this plane to experience this. Because when we're all up with Source, it's, we're healed. We're not having these, I don't call them tests, because that just seems so, I don't know, testy. That's just not a great term for it. But we want to individualize, I believe, from God as these our soul does, right? We kind of want to have this little time. Will I remember God? Will I remember that I am actually divine inside and that I can lead my life through that and have a wonderful time? Or am I going to struggle on the struggle bus of earth life and forget that I'm in alignment and lash out and get over emotional and all those kind of normal human things? And it's like, yeah, we're going to do that. Like all of us. Everyone loses their shit. And I think if you want to call it ascended master or whatever, like anybody, I don't care who, Jesus, even himself, has lost their shit and had an over emotional reaction here on earth. Okay. It's a hard plane. It's not easy. And so anyway, I wanted to kind of go through this on this, why I kind of really don't subscribe to it. Instead, I'm just going to kind of lightly say here that I don't. And maybe that's a topic that you might feel like you kind of want to heal and consider. Especially if you were brought up in a real strict, I want to call it unloving dogma. that can really put inside of us that we're inherently wrong. We're inherently like, can't trust my energy. I can't trust these things that come inside me in terms of like ideas and, intuition, that sort of, you can't trust that. If you get this dogma of you're a sinner and you're a bad sinner and you're going to hell and that separately, like you need something else, like a savior in order to like get bumped up to and let the pearly gates open for you. And I'm like, I just don't. I think that plane of heaven doesn't even have gates. It's just like this open, it's all open. It's all open. No walls. No walls, no gates. And yeah, so that's where I'm at. And I just kind of I think I had to have time for sure, like realizing what those beliefs really do to you. Like, what do you subconsciously think about yourself in terms of empowerment to protect yourself in terms of energy? Because that's one other thing, is that I feel very empowered because I believe in the soul that's inside of me. That's all the goodness of God. Well, it has a lot of the God strengths too. So, to heal and to protect myself energetically so I can push out this, like, and I do it with visualizations, this bubble of don't fuck with me, especially if I feel like I'm going through an area that I might need to have that kind of protection, or being by certain individuals who I need that little bump of like, GTFO, get the freak out. trying to keep my instances of cussing lower on this channel. But I'm very British with the F word. But yeah, and I just feel like going and visiting my dad and having these nice long talks about, what we think mom is kind of going through now, that mom's, a spirit on the other side and looking after us. What do you think she's up to? How is she coming to visit you? And I'm talking about how I feel like I see her in my life. And it just brought up all these talks about to him, where I really got to share like what I felt like happens, when we die, that it's an automatic return. Like the soul knows how to return. It knows how to go home. And there's nothing I need to do in this lifetime to deserve it or to be worthy of. I'm worthy just by breathing. And it's because that soul that's inside me never changes, no matter, even if I go and fuck up the rest of my life. If I do horrible sin after horrible sin, I hate using that word, it's judgmental. But if I start doing horrible act after horrible act, like independently, like, yes, this is not a good thing to do, like the rest of my life, I still get that return ticket. We all do. I just feel like there's levels of heaven of, I want to call it repair, but what rehabilitation that each soul would kind of come back to if they didn't do well and make very high vibe choices on earth. Like, right? Like where did some bad actors in history go? Well, they're probably at some low levels right now, really kind of slowly realizing what they did energetically down here on earth. And I think that takes some time, and I think that's real serious. I don't think that's I might call it heaven, but it's a layer of heaven that's got a lot of accountability and probably very painful in terms of that, waking up to accountability. And that's how I see it. I don't see it as an actual existence of hell. And that's where I'm at right now. And that feels good for me. And so anyway, I just kind of talked to my dad about that, who was raised very strictly Catholic in a very small town that had a very strong Catholic priest. and so yeah, I just kind of letting him see my less judgmental, more spirituality, less dogma. I don't know, less judgmental. I mean, I can be judgy as a spiritual person too, so I don't want to say I'm a judgment-free zone here, but give me around a devout Christian, I'm probably a very judgy bitch next to that person. I'm like, tell me more, #blessed, chosen. I can't stand that hierarchical words used just because they think they have some sort of secret into heaven. It's like, no, there's no gate. But anyway, I'm going off into other tangents. So I was just going to pull some cards. I didn't want to be too heavy today. Just because my energy can only last so long today. I don't know how y'all are feeling. It's been kind of funky with this whole, what is it? Mars squaring Pluto. We're leaving it, but the energy lately has just been like, I don't know, not easy. So I'm just going to pull a card. And the cards I'm using are The Wisdom, oh here, I'm gonna get a better picture. The Wisdom of the Oracle, Divination Cards by Colette Baron-Reid. And let's see what, oh, that's nice. So I pulled the No Place Like Home card, and I don't know if I'm gonna try to get the video a little better. And it's like this little tiny house over above clouds. In this image to me, this Oracle card, kind of funny, sorry. Just remembering something I thought of the other day in terms of homes. I'll just keep that to myself. But okay, so the No Place Like Home card, it is, and it's just beautiful bright light within the home. As you can just tell, it's real nice and cozy inside, like a nice little English cottage. And the idea of this card is that the home inside you, like your spiritual space, your emotional space, you know, your energy, there's no place like it. Like that's the most rooted place you can be. And the more that we can kind of have a moment to be in that energy, to like chill out in meditation, on a walk, get to know your energy, like so that you know when you're affected by other people or other situations, you'd be like, oh, this shit ain't me. I had to do that, especially with family members who maybe you weren't aware of their power dynamic bullshit for a long time, and then they play it on you, and then you're like, okay, this is you. I am not a controlling person. You're being a weirdo. And like you can just like shut them off because you're like, no. And that was the Australian no. Anyway, but like and it's an important thing to do for protection and boundary making and all that sort of thing. And I love it too because with this particular person I'm thinking of, with the control thing, made a comment about my small home. And I'm like, you know what? I'd rather have a small, happy home than a big, empty, catastrophic, bullshitty one. So there you go. I guess I'm going to talk about it after all. I love my home. And that's the whole thing. It's really inside you. I can be placed anywhere. And the thing is, we often try to like take ourselves out and like it's a location issue. And sometimes it is. There are some I have some beautiful friends who I cannot wait till they move out of the place that they're at, because I know they're going to love life a little more in certain other areas in the country. But I have also known people who thought it was a location issue too, and they move, and I know that wasn't it. They're the same type of person, but in a just different spot. And this idea is that kind of false band-aids, that false repair, you won't be seeking that if you just really get into and have a moment and looking at these, especially if you're looking at these root issues like, am I worthy as a person, as a soul? Like, do I identify who am? Like, you have to have like this moment to be like, okay, what do I think of, when I think of like who I am, what does that mean? Is it this body? Because this body is getting gray hairs, you know, this body is going to have maybe a surgery in the future, like that kind of stuff. I need to repair this, you know, what if I, that kind of stuff, like your bodies just don't remain the same. And then I was just like, okay, for me, I'm just kind of going down the logic train, guys, with y'all right now. So if it's not the body, is it my mind? And I'm like, well, I just think all these things are temporary human elements. And the one thing that remains, and this is kind of coming from like a Wayne Dyer talk I think I saw, because his whole point was what remains, like what hasn't ever changed. And it's this spark of soul in us that just, that came in with us, and we leave with that experience. We don't leave with the meat suit. We know that, right? It stays down here in the ground in the earth plane. But so I really kind of like did dig into this idea that I am the soul. I need to get to know what the soul is, and start reading my energy better. Like what does like make me excited? What doesn't, seem fun to me? Being honest about those emotions and slowing down my life so I can read it, so I can really pick up those indications in terms of people and activities, everything. Like, am I just filling my life just to fill my life with activities for my kids, and I'm just kind of like living vicariously through them and not really satiating like my own like creative destiny and like desire? Because that's what I was doing when I lived in Texas. I was so busy, and I was just too busy for anything that had to do with like something that I wanted to do. And so anyway, having those moments, like really kind of thinking it through of what you want to like really believe in. And then looking at that, and if you had a childhood wound or difficulty with a unloving dogma, and like what messages do you think that you took in as a child that maybe might still be there? Because it does, I think, take an intentional, I use affirmations to reverse that energy. And I say it so often enough that you know that you've kind of, okay, at least I'm not auto from that setting. I know I'm worthy. So when I hear bullshit from a third person, I'm already past that. Am I? Because no fucking way. I already know that I have this intention to being loving, to being fair, to being kind. So if I hear anything else, I know it's an old story that they are telling themselves or they're projecting. And it's a lot of times the projection. Like a lot of times the person is just not being honest with themselves about their own energy, and they're just kind of like seeing in you what they want to really kind of address in themselves, but don't have the courage yet to look at. I mean, some people just don't have the perspective. They may not get it in this lifetime. And then you just got to decide how much you want to interact with people like that who aren't ever going to meet you where you need to meet them at, Tough stuff. I'm just kind of having a mishmash discussion today. I hope you had some sort of nugget of help. And yeah, I'm just glad to be back and hope y'all are doing well. All right, y'all take care. Bye.